Hello, everyone, and good morning. Today I have a phenomenal guest. She is a serial entrepreneur, award winning film director, and actress, Andrea Ward, CEO of Redemption Images. Thank you so much for joining me today, Queen.
And thank you for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you for taking the time. You have an amazing story and journey. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Ward. I'm a film director, award winning film director, writer, creator, producer, actress, as well as stunt woman, and up and coming book author as well, and comic book creator. Recently added to my title. I am the CEO and owner of Redemption Images, the voice for the voiceless, where we focus on the untold stories of the unheard. I am an activist for battered women and children. I do come from a background of domestic violence. As an activist, it is my job and duty to make a difference and spread more awareness to others. And how I got started in entertainment, I got into the fashion world at 18. I literally started at the bottom from modeling to designing. I got discovered by Mercedes Benz off of Instagram, and I showcased my first international show, LA Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week. I got invited to Beijing, Dubai, Tokyo, Paris, and London too. I was a
Oh,
designer for 5 years, and then somehow I got into film. It started, I would say I got onto Steve Harvey, and then eventually I ended up in a Netflix project called The Raincoat Academy with King Vader. Not entirely sure how I got that role. I just happened to be at the right place in the right time, and I fell in love with it. I studied abroad in London at IDSA, the School of Acting as well. So I'm a professionally trained actress and stunt woman as well. And eventually I started writing my own stories and turning them into short films. I directed Deception Streets, Reborn Redemption, which is filled with lots of martial arts and a lot of the talented, amazing actors. And I wrote it in one day.
wow. One day.
Mhm.
That is an extraordinary background. Um, I have so many questions. I don't know where to start.
I've done so much in a short period of time.
18. How did it feel going to Tokyo?
Well, I was supposed to go, but then COVID happened. I actually had a tour set up, and then the tour was canceled with our sponsors because of COVID and the outbreak.
Okay. Okay. So let me ask you. You said that you was 18 when you started modeling. Um, what made you get into fashion?
I always loved fashion, and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, so I never really quite fit in, especially with the fashion trends out there. I always had my own trend going on in my mind, and I would just put together designs or outfits, and I was like, I look good in this. I think I look good in this, so I'm gonna wear it. And I didn't fit in. I felt very much like the black sheep out there. And I was like, let me try fashion. Let me start sketching and sewing. It wasn't until my twin brother found my sketchbooks that I would hide. And he
Mm.
bought me my first sewing machine. He invested some money
Ooh.
into the brand. And then I did a whole collection within a month of learning how to sew. And it went on Instagram, and Mercedes Benz reached out to me.
Wow. So self-taught. That is amazing. Seems like you have a gift and so many talents.
Thank
What
you.
made you decide to want to be a stunt woman? Because that take guts.
Well, honestly, I was just like, if I could get through so many of the obstacles I've gone through in my life, especially life or death situations, I could get through anything, and I'm tough. I come from a martial art background of Krav Maga and Muay Thai as well. I studied Muay Thai boxing all throughout my childhood, all the way into college as well too. And then Krav Maga, I learned right after I got out of the domestic violence situation, and I wanted to
Mm.
learn more self defense. And then I love martial art movies, and foreign movies and movies from overseas. Like I can name every martial art form there is, every actor there is, and I was like, I might as well learn this, and I might as well do this because I'm already in film. I'm already an actress, so it makes sense to do it, and I love it.
Wow. I love Japanese movies too. It's just something about them. I really, really do. Um, how long does it take to be a stunt woman?
Honestly, it just depends at how fast you can learn different things and how you move at your own pace. So for me, it took me about, I say 6, 7 months to learn, just the not the basics, but to be like intermediate with the sword and the knives,
Mm,
which is super fun. It's all about movement and it's all about being in motion and being in one. It depends on your instructor and teacher. I had a really great teacher. His name's Ja Crooms. He's here in Atlanta, Georgia. He is a weapons specialist. So it really
mm,
depends. And as long as you practice, it's just going to become second hand nature to you. But if you don't practice, it's going to take you a lot longer. And then you have to film yourself doing stunts or like choreograph a whole stunt scene as if it's a movie. So that way you can get yourself into other films because there's not a lot of people of color in the stunt
mm.
world. You would think there is not, especially black women. There it's very
That
minimal.
was my next question.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. I saw a scene that you have with this sword, and I was like, "Ooh, she has skills," because a sword is not light,
No.
and the movement and the flow, and I was like, "Yes, yes, that is nice." Was that just for a commercial, or is that part of a scene?
That was actually a promo for up and coming movies. I've been dropping little hints without actually saying it until the news comes out. So it's actually for an upcoming movie I wrote. I'm directing and also starring in as well with a few other big name actors as well too.
Mm, okay, okay. Dropping little hints.
Yeah.
Well, that was a nice one. Um, and you produce as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I saw the video and I thought it was so well put together and it's different from what I normally see in music videos. And I was like, ooh, it had a little spice and it was just like a storytelling. It's like, wow, how long have you always wanted to be a producer, I should say?
Well, I never really had the thought process of wanting to be a producer. It's just something I always knew how to do naturally. I've coordinated production shows for fashion shows and then films, and then also I coordinated a whole photo shoot for Vanity Teen Magazine, and then Essence Magazine too with Jean Ely, HBO's Insecure, and it just came natural to me. So I was like, well, if I could produce these magazine covers, and I could produce film, and so I had a natural gift for it, putting everything together, especially through a certain vision. Like with the music video, I came up with the treatment, the idea. I produced everything. I ran everything by myself. I put it together. I think within 2 days, and we filmed everything in one day. So it was a
Mm,
lot of work, but it was worth it. It ended up on BET in rotation. It's still in rotation. It's by James Worthy and Big Gip of Goody Mob. They're
yes.
actually pretty cool. And, James gave me the opportunity once he saw some of my films or trailers on YouTube.
Wow. I must say, um, because I read a little bit of your story and comic book, you went to a prestigious school for medicine, um, stunt woman. You have all these things and you just keep pursuing and pursuing when you just didn't want to stop at one. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is something that takes courage, faith and guts, and knowing that your passions and your gifts, they're multiple. And I just want to say, wow, that is so amazing. You didn't just stop at one thing. Um, because the fashion industry, that is tough to get in. Really, really is. And you accomplished a lot in so little time. And you
Mm.
have a baby girl. Um, what is that like for you, raising a daughter and trying to do all of these multiple entrepreneurships?
Um, it can be tough. It can be a challenge sometimes, but she inspires me and motivates me in every way possible. If it were not for her, I don't think I would have been doing half the things that I'm doing because I'm trying to
Mm,
set up a foundation and to set an example for her and the other young girls that do look up to me that anything is possible. Even if you've gone through abuse or traumatic situations, or if you had a traumatic upbringing, or if you come from a family poverty or with no little to no money or little to no education, you could still make it happen for yourself. You could be a single parent. You could be, someone that's married with kids. Like, your
mm,
dreams is gonna be there no matter what. And you can pursue it at any time. You don't have to put it on hold. You don't have to put it aside. Now, if you do for other reasons, it's totally fine. But I feel like as a person, as a creative, you should never give up on your dream, because if you survive something, you know, life or death situations, you're here for a purpose and for a reason. And that purpose is far beyond your understanding. Like, your existence is far beyond your understanding, and is to make a difference in other people's lives. It's possibly looking up to you and watching you now.
that is so, so true. That is so true. And thank you for sharing that with us. Um, could you tell us a little bit about your story with the domestic violence, and only if you want to, and how you got started being an activist and what inspired you to want to, you know, help other women?
Yes, so I would say I was about 23 when it occurred. And I was with this person for years, pretty much since high school. And I didn't see this coming. It was just a switch that went off one day. It went from "I love you" to "I'm gonna make you regret the day you met me." And I didn't quite understand it. Like, I knew what domestic violence was, but I always thought, well, it could never happen to me. Why would it happen to me? I've never done anything.
Mm,
But domestic violence, it's not prejudice against man or woman or color, race, ethnicity, background. It comes in multiple forms. There's physical abuse, spiritual abuse, and mental and financial as well, and religiously. It can come in those forms as well too. And that's often not talked about either. So I was going through all at such a very sensitive time. It was very emotional. I felt like I was alone, but there's a lot of women and people that I knew that also went through it. They just never spoke up about it. They didn't have the courage to speak up and to tell someone about it. Some people, depending on your upbringing or your views, some people may deem that as love, or that's being acceptable. And like, from Baltimore, where I'm from, you see that often, but no one will say or do anything about it. Especially when it comes to law enforcement, you could report it. Like, back then, they wouldn't do anything. They would get away with it, and about time you take it to court and get a restraining or a peace order, it's already too late. Like, I've lost loved ones too, but especially at a young age, what happened to me. Um, so I took some time out from school, and then I eventually went back, finished my degree out. I moved to a different location, started fresh, had my daughter, and I just felt like I'm here for a reason, and I survived something that I never thought I would have gone through. You only see it in movies, and like the perfect guy and enough. Put that together, that was my story, and it was horrible. And I don't wish that on my worst enemies, but I do pray for my enemies to get better at that, to deal with their inner emotional demons or anything that they're facing or fighting. Because you got to think, where was this behavior learned, where was this taught, because sometimes they pick these things up at an early age. If they went through abuse during their childhood, they're going to
Yeah,
hurt people, and it's a repeated cycle that we often don't get healing for, and we inflict that pain on other people, and then that hurts someone else, and we end up hurting someone else, and then it goes on and on, generation to generation.
that is so true. And there are types of indicators of physical. Um, you have child indicators, you have parent indicators, and then there's the physical indicators. And then you have your self worth. And some people have low self worth, or it might be peer pressure.
Hmm.
You just never know. And like you said, it stems from an early age. You're just not taught that or believe that when you get grown, you do that to other people. And when you see a child happy a couple of months and then there's something wrong, pay attention to the child, um, because there might be something going on at home, and there's not enough teachers and aides in the school systems to see that there's somebody might be being bullied in the bathroom, and then they go home and they bully their younger siblings, all because they don't know how to let that pain, out in a positive manner. Um, so thank you for telling that story. Um, what are there some takeaways that you could give to the or to the audience and to the ladies out there listening and the viewers, um, about yourself and what to look for inside yourself and when to know to get out of a bad situation?
Hmm. So it's self-love. You have to love yourself enough to walk away. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to be open to receiving the help from other people about the situation that you know more insight, or maybe reporting it to local authorities or documenting it. Finding the courage to leave. Like, there is something, it is your why and
Mm,
what you're fighting for. Because if you have nothing to live or fight for, you're not going to fight to get out of that situation. You're not going to make the necessary steps to leave that situation. And then if you don't love yourself enough, then you feel like you deserve this and that no one else is going to love you, and that there's nothing else. There's always something better. You know, remaining in a toxic situation, that's like a death sentence.
mm,
And I would say the longer you stay, the less time you may have, because like you don't know if it's today, tomorrow, if that one blow or hit is gonna be the last blow you receive or hit. You may end up in a hospital, you may end up in a coma. And I talk to a lot of young girls that, say, well, he hits me because he loves me. He does not. He does not love you. He doesn't even love himself enough, and he's hurting you because he's hurt and he wants you to suffer. And then he also doesn't want anyone else to have you, because he knows your value and your worth, and you are worthy and very valuable. You're a precious stone, a diamond. Diamonds fold under pressure, and he knows
mm.
the value of it.
Yes, yes. And they seem to be so charming in the beginning, and
Hmm.
then you see the little jealous streaks, or don't wear that, or your hair color shouldn't be this way, or why you got to go to your friends. And then you see the manipulation and the gaslighting, the demanding, threatening, and the blame victim. So know the signs to look for. Um, and there are men out there that are being abused. You just don't hear about it as often, because women are, the statistics are very, very high. Um, like about 20 people per minute in the U.S. are physically abused, by an intimate partner, according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And this is of 20, October 27th, 2021. Um, so I want to thank you for being the advocate and telling your story, because it resonated with me, the courage that it took to you to go to a whole nother state and pursue your passion and your dream and to live for yourself. And I think a lot of women need to hear that. Um, Let me ask you, to get on a lighter note, what is the best piece of advice that you have received or have ever gotten from someone?
Hmm. I have such great friends, and they all give me great advice. They always tell me, especially my one friend, actually, it's a few, uh, they would all say the same thing too. Never wait for an opportunity to present itself. You have to make
Mm,
the opportunity happen for yourself. If nobody wants to cast you in a film, make your own projects. Make it, create it. You have more control. You have more say. You can dictate whatever goes on. Because in the entertainment and film world, everyone's trying to be an actor. Everyone's trying to make it. But with the type of narratives we often see, especially the stereotypes, like for people of color, it's not us, that's not how all of us present ourselves. And I was always told too, if you don't like something, write it, direct it, change it, put it out there. Don't wait for anyone to accept it. Even if you
mm.
get a no, you may get many no's, but all it'll take is one yes. And if you don't get that yes, create that door, go through that door, make that yes for
Blow
yourself.
it down if you have to.
Yeah, and that's something that has made a huge difference in my life. And it's been ongoing ever since. Like all my accomplishments has been within the last 7 years. 7 years. And no one knew me in Hollywood or LA or Atlanta. No one knew me. Now everyone does. My name is out there. I'm constantly creating stuff. I'm constantly writing things because I'm not waiting for someone to give me a chance to shine. I'm shining on my own, and I'm just putting myself out there. Whoever receives it, they receive it. If they don't, that's totally fine. And that's why I also changed my name to Andrea the Creative, because I'm multi
Mm,
gifted and multi talented. I do more than one thing. Like there's not one thing I can't do except for cars. Like I don't do anything with auto, or nope, I can't do that. But everything else I can do, because I believe in myself and God gave me that gift and talent.
amen. I like that. The opportunity, do it yourself. Yes,
Hmm.
yes, that is a good one. That is a good one. Um, where did the comic book idea come from? What inspired that?
Well, when I was a victim of domestic violence, I didn't have anybody to come in and save me or to be my Prince Charming with a beautiful white horse to swoop in and save the day. I had to save myself. And I wanted, and people often say this to me, they see me as a hero in a way, like not all heroes wear capes. It could be subtle things that I'm doing to make a difference in a community. And I wanted to create a hero for that purpose. So it's a superhero comic book inspired by, my life, people that inspire me, more people of color, different nationalities, different backgrounds, because we often don't see that representation when it comes to superhero and comic books. I mean, we might see a smidge or a sprinkle of it, but and if we do, it's not represented in the right way. If we do get it, it's like a race war going on. I'm like, come on now, like we're way better than that. We're way past that. Enough with the race wars, racism. Enough with that. Stereotypes.
Yes.
Like it's just we don't get the proper representation, and I'm sure other ethnicities and cultures that are people of color, they feel the same way. We don't see enough of us on these big screens in comic books because, like just with Black Panther, that was great, especially the new one. It was more representation of people of color, and it made a huge difference, and it inspired more creatives to come forth like, all right, maybe I could create something too. I feel like everybody has a hero within them.
Mm, yes, yes, they do. You just have to know how to tap in to it and realize that you have it. Um, and that, oh, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. A real life superhero that people can actually look up to. And there's not enough, as you say, black characters in comic books, on the screen, or in even the anime um, culture. Manga. I don't want to get it wrong for those out there that are
Oh,
serious
I love
about.
anime.
Yes, yes. My son and my daughter, that's all they look at. And they was like, Mom, it's just not enough of us. So my son is going to college because that's what he wants to do, be a comic book, well, not just a comic book, but a writer in general to bring more characters. So that is amazing that you're able to do that. How long does it take to, are you just beginning in the comic book or is it the final stages?
We're getting towards the final stages. It's just working with a really great illustrator to really capture the essence of the characters. So just to break down the story, break down the characters, what they look like, the scenarios, the storyline, everything. It takes a lot of time because it's a lot of sketching and illustrations, and you got to copyright it to make sure no one steals it. In case
Mm.
you put it out and there's a movie similar to your comic book. I got to do that, because we see that way too often, especially if it's a good idea. So this will be like a live action film as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So you're an actress, a film director, producer, and writer. What do you look for when you're auditioning? And could you tell us a little bit about what it takes to be a film producer to the people out there that want to get into that niche or that field?
You have to have a lot of patience when you're casting for actors and dealing with people and putting your team and crew together. A team makes the dream work. You cannot do everything yourself. You can try, not saying it's
Mm,
impossible, it's very possible, but it's very draining. You have to know the basics of films, the fundamentals, like the location scouting, make sure you have the right director, or, if you have a co-producer, signed agreements, talent attachments, a budget in place, a pitch deck if you're going for film grants and funding, or teaming up with another production company overseas to get more tax incentives involved into the project as well. Making sure you have your LLC, make sure business is accounted for, whether it's a union or non-union. If it's union, if you're trying to be an actor in your own project, you can actually make yourself union or part of the union instead of waiting for someone to make you union,
that's
which
a
may take
nugget.
a little longer.
Wow. I did not know that. I'm sorry. Keep going.
It's okay. It's okay. So I'm actually coming out with a book about filmmaking, like the basics of filmmaking as well, and the things that aren't in other books either. The things I've learned on Hollywood Insider, because I've been around everyone, every A-lister, every celeb, pretty much all the award shows in LA, even Atlanta too. I've learned a lot, even a little bit of PR. Most of my friends are publicists. Most of my friends are stunt people for Black Panther, Avengers, Get Out, Us, Nope. My friend Carrie, she's about to have a baby. Like, she's Kiki Palmer's stunt double. So I learned a lot from very wonderful people.
Wow. That is amazing. So let me ask you, out of being a film director, an actress, a stunt woman, um, and going to medical school, um, what are you most proud of and why?
That's a good question. I'm most proud of myself as being a filmmaker, because it took a lot of courage and guts to really write about my life experiences, personal experiences, and taking something I wrote from when I was like 9 years old to producing and directing it and bringing it to life and manifesting it for it to be award winning. Because, like, most people would look at me and they would say, she's just a pretty face. A lot of people did not think I would be a great filmmaker, a great film director, or writer as well, because all they saw was a pretty face and
Mm,
someone from the fashion world. And I had to prove them wrong. Only I can dictate my life and my journey. Only I know what I'm capable of. They don't. They just see a face. But little do they know, it's a lot of talent behind this face.
yes, yes. A lot of talent and passion. And I think if people have a good heart and their mind is in the right place and they're following their path that God led them on, your horizon is, it can soar. You can be whatever you want and you don't have to stop at just being one thing. Um, what has been your most difficult or a mistake that you made in the beginning that you can laugh at now?
I made quite a few mistakes. I had to learn the hard way. I know going into the film world, not the film world, but the fashion, I did make the mistake of trying to take everyone with me through a door that was only meant for me because I have such a big heart and I wanted to see everybody when all my people in, everyone I grew up with. And a lot of them just did not understand the vision behind the journey. And I was trying to take them through a door and they held on like a lot of weight, a lot of luggage. And it was hard trying to get them through that door. And they were projecting their weight, their luggage, the baggage onto me, you know, which
Mm,
also kind of almost deterred me from my vision and my goal, in the fashion world. And film is kind of the same thing, but you have to have a team that's going to have almost the same exact purpose or believe in your vision. If you don't, your team is going to fall apart. Your projects are not going to be A1 quality. It's all about being on one accord and having people to believe in you because people want to work with you, to use you, to ride off your back and the fruits of your labor, receive blessings that were for you. They want it for them. And that's something I learned. And that was a tough lesson. That was a tough lesson starting out. And to not bet against yourself, but to bet for yourself, bet on you.
ooh,
If nobody else believes in you, believe in yourself. Others will believe in you. It'll come. No matter what anyone tries to deter you from your vision, your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your aspirations, you gotta bet on yourself first. Invest in yourself. Don't invest in anybody else unless they're investing in you. They have to pour into you and you pour into them. And that's just how it works.
there were so many takeaways in that one short thing. Like, wow, invest in yourself, and you need to. Ooh, the first part about going through the door, knowing that you can't take everybody with you. Oh, that kind of touched me because I really I'm like that myself, and it's hard, but sometimes you have to know what you have to do and that's right for you. You know.
And you have to
Um,
believe in it too. And you have to throw yourself into it wholeheartedly without questioning anything. If it's the path that God has blessed you with, you have to go and see it through, no matter what. Even if it's questionable, you still have to see it through.
yes, yes. So I didn't want to ask. We can just talk about it a little bit
Um,
because she is my shero, and Nell Carter and Gregory Hines and Debbie Allen. Could you tell us a little bit just about the moment that you knew that she was your great aunt,
I
Miss
found
Billie Holiday?
I found this out. I want to say about 6 years ago, and I didn't believe it. I know my grandma, Arnita Ward, God rest her soul. She was an amazing woman. I remember her telling me about it, but like I didn't believe it. I just thought she was up in age. And I was like, let me do my research. I love you, grandma. Let me do my, you know. And I was like, I do favor her, and I always question that. And growing up, people would always say you do favor like this singer, this jazz musician, but like I didn't. I'm little. I didn't understand. I'm like, oh, okay, it was quite shocking, and even till this day, when like people ask me about it, I'm like, oh, it's still shocking till this very day to be connected to a legend, you
Mm,
know, especially someone that went through, abuse as well too. You
yes.
know, every woman in my family has gone through abuse in some shape or form.
Wow.
Every woman, every generation. It even goes back to our ancestor George Washington and Huhadla Mosi. That was our ancestors. Same thing, abuse. It was very heavy then. It's been in every
Mm,
generation. It's been a generational curse, as I call it.
Wow. And I wonder why that is. And how do you break something like that? Because you growing up, you try to protect your daughters, you try to teach them, what to look for, and then somehow it still happens. It's really sad, but the strength that it comes from, the ancestral above and from God to help you push through it and get through it and survive. Because everybody don't get to tell their story. Um, and she was a phenomenal woman, and I wouldn't. I wasn't going to ask, but my husband was like, "She's what?" And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna ask just a little bit."
Mhm.
Um, but tell me, how does it feel? Well, not how does it feel, but what do you do to relax at the end of the day or the week that you can tell the audience a takeaway um, of how to unwind?
Yeah, so how to unwind. I usually get a glass of wine. You know, I love wine. I'm not really like a big alcoholic like drinker or anything. I just drink something light. I'll take my laptop out, put on some jazz music or something to just kind of unwind. I'll get on my laptop and start writing. Sometimes I'll write poetry, which I do like freestyle poetry as well. A lot of people don't know about that. Sometimes I'll write like a short story or like a pilot for a TV series about my life. It's called For the Love of Fashion, and it's super comical. My life is kind of like a big comedy, so like I'll think about it. It's just right. I've had a lot of funny. It's kind of like The Hangover sometimes. Um, when it's done and we film it, you're gonna love it. It's funny.
Wow.
That's how I unwind. Or sometimes I'll just take and do yoga, or I'll put on some music and
Mm.
kind of swing the sword for a little bit too, because that's relaxing for me. And it's also a workout too.
Oh, wow. The sword, really? That's
Hmm.
interesting. Um, your creativity and detail for um your directing is really, really above par. And then you just said that you just sit there and things just come to you naturally like that?
Yeah, it comes to me naturally, or and then this is what I don't talk about as much too behind the creativity. I'll have dreams about it. These are mostly from my dreams or like a personal experience. I'll write the dream out exactly what happened, and then I'll go back, and then it'll be like I wake up the next day, it's like a next part to the dream. I write that down too, and then I just put it into a film.
Wow. I heard you earlier say that you could write like something in 2 hours or it took you a day to
Hmm.
produce the film or the video, and I was like, oh, wow. You see the creativity, you can write it down, and then it's just done like that.
Hmm.
So when you're writing a script, is it hard for a woman or the opposite sex?
Um, for writing a script, I would say it's a little bit more tedious writing for a guy's part because I'm not a guy. So I have to be outside of myself and put myself as if I was a guy, like mentally, but I'm not a guy. So usually I would just talk to other guys, and especially the ones that kind of fit that character and get like their
Mm.
likeness to a certain degree, just so I have some sort of inspiration going. Because I don't want to write something and then it's not from a guy's perspective or what they would typically say. Because men and women are very different.
Yes. Yes, they are. Um, as far as directing goes, is that something that is hard to do, or does that come naturally to you as well?
It comes very naturally because I've been in so many situations that I could relate to or know how it's going to play out, like Reborn Redemption. Some of those situations I know, like the kitchen scene, like for the trailer. I don't know if you had the chance to watch it, but I know what that scene felt like, because I've been in that moment. So when I was directing that scene, and I had to pull my actors aside because they just didn't quite click with it, or they weren't getting it. And I had to share like a personal experience. And the one actor, Mark could, it just made him angry, like, for something like that to happen to someone,
Mhm.
me or anybody, because I'm like the sweetest person. And Brittany, she was just like, you're really sweet. And I was like, I share vulnerable like moments with them because I want them to be in the moment. I'm going to be in the moment with them to guide them as I'm directing them, because when you're an actor in a very sensitive moment when it comes to acting, like outside of your character, I feel like I have to kind of guide them, but also protect them, and to make sure that moment comes out as authentic and
Mm.
real as possible. So that way they can connect with those emotions, whether it's anger or, despair, or, sadness, just so it comes out differently on camera. I'm very like keen to detail when it comes to scenes like that. So my directing's very different. I don't just yell at my actors. I talk with them. I communicate with them, or I'm like right there in their ear, and they're just like, all right, I'm gonna look at you like very awkwardly. They're like, wait, what? Or I'll say something that give them ad libs before that moment that get them up and like rolled. Or if it's comical, I'll do something behind the scenes and they're just cracking up laughing. If I need to get the actual laughter out, I will do what I need to do to get it done. you
Yeah, because acting is something that you not only have to be passionate about, but then the physical acting where you have to visualize the character, and then your body and your voice have to match it and be balanced, and you have to be believable. And that
Mm.
can be really hard. Um, so between the acting and the stunt woman and you said the film directing, that was your favorite. Um, have you ever had a conflict, and how did you overcome it?
Hmm. I've had quite a few. Yeah, so I there was conflicts, and it usually happens in the film world. People want to be a part of something great, and sometimes people don't want to do the work,
Mm,
or they don't want to be patient enough for an opportunity to come in. So what I'll do is I'll provide like incentives and have one-on-one conversations, like, hey, if you do X, Y, Z, I can get you a gig with XYZ, like someone else, like a referral, especially if they're trying to build up their portfolio as well too, whether it's with the, camera operating, or set designs, or, wardrobe department, or if it's another actor looking for a referral for someone else's project. As long as you put in the work and you show up, I always look out.
okay. And it seems like you take a different approach to directing, because I heard you say people yelling at, the directors yelling and,
Hmm.
making them, and you make it seem like you're more personal, and that comes across as caring, and they want to do the job better, I think.
Hmm.
And a lot of people need to learn from that. A lot of people need to learn from that. So can you tell the viewers and the listeners where they can find you from, and how they can find you on your social media platforms?
Yes, so you could find me at redemptionimages.com, social media Redemption Images for Instagram, and my other Instagram page is Andrea the Creator, and the same thing for Twitter, Redemption Images, as well as our YouTube channel.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, could you give the audience three takeaways, or resources or top tips that you have, for anybody that wanted to get in the field?
Mhm. Always be prepared, no matter what. Whether it's things you know and you don't know, it doesn't matter. There's always room and opportunity to learn something new and better yourself and your craft. Never stop working on your craft. Always look for ways to improve, even in areas you may not be familiar with. Don't be afraid to explore those areas and to learn something new, to educate yourself, even as well as getting a mentor or shadowing someone. You have to start from somewhere, and don't be afraid to reach out to people. Put yourself out there and put yourself first.
I like that. I like that. Closed mouths don't get fed, I like to say. You never know until you ask.
Exactly.
It was a pleasure speaking with you, Miss Andrea, and I do thank you for joining me today, for joining us today. Um, this has been another phenomenal episode of The Empire. Thank you for tuning in. As always, be bold, be beautiful, and be blessed. Until next time, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.